Okay, we are now recording. So here I have my second live podcast guest of 2021. This is Edsel Flores. I'm really excited to have him here today. He's an old friend, an old colleague that we studied music together. We studied classical piano together at Kean University. I'm very excited to have him here today. How are you doing today, Etzel?
Doing good. I'm glad to be here.
So before we get into it, we have some pretty interesting questions here coming up for this podcast episode, and he's going to be performing some of his own original stuff. So I'm very excited about that. But before we get into it, if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit like, and feel free to comment on anything that we talk about throughout the episode. I like to have deep conversations here, and I like to, get into friendly debate with my subscribers. So if there's anything you have to add to the conversation, if you agree or disagree with anything, don't be afraid to, speak up as we go along. So anyways, here I have Etzel, and I'm really excited to have him here today. So I like to start every podcast episode with, I like to talk about what you do, with your art, but I also really like to talk about just a couple icebreaker questions. So this has been my favorite question so far that seems to be working. And the question is, and we like to just jump right into it. So it's a little bit of an intense question, but that's what we're about here on the Pranzata podcast. What is a character flaw that you have that you need to work on?
I guess what I need to work on is just procrastinating less and seeing if I could use social media a little less.
Social media is like an easy distraction, in my opinion. Like it's so easy to use, and it definitely adds like to the procrastination. You know what I mean?
It does. And
it's really addicting. Like, and I don't think it's good for your mind, like to be looking at things in just 1 second. It's kind of like taking away of our ability to concentrate. That's what I think. It's taking away from our ability to concentrate for longer periods of time. Would you agree with that?
I do. Like sometimes I'll be in a video and I just like, and then I'll click on another video and another video and another video. And then I just like, the time just flies just like that. It's when I could just be doing being more productive, but at the same time, it's good to do it in moderation, maybe just for a little small break, but I think we should time our breaks and limit the use and not just get carried away with every little thing that you see on the internet. That's
a really good point you made, that it's funny how like social media goes in little tiny seconds, but somehow those little seconds add up to a really long time, like a really long waste of time. That's a really good point. Didn't even think about that. So here's the next uncomfortable question, and then I'll stop harassing you with uncomfortable questions. I do this to all my guests. Like they first come here, and I'm just like, "What's your biggest fear in life?" Like, and they're like, "Holy shit, calm down." But that's just, I don't know. I like to really break the ice, I guess. So okay. What would be a deal breaker for you in a relationship? It doesn't have to be romantic. It could be either romantic or a friendship. Like, is there something that in a quality in a person that, okay, I can't date a person like this, or I can't be friends with a person like this? Or are you pretty much just open, like you're just a really loving person and you don't really have any like deal breakers or anything like that?
I guess if the person is rude all the time, that's a deal breaker. And if you just can't vibe with them, but I don't hate anyone. I just feel like I just can't connect if I can't vibe with you, if I can't like have a conversation, and if you're not being open to me. Because if I'm doing all the work, then I just it's just not going to work out. I know you're saying like it's hard to force a connection. Like you can't you're like, I like when I was thinking of asking you this question, I'm like, I feel like Etzel is a very loving and understanding person. So I'm not even sure if he has any like deal breakers, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense. You're saying like you love everybody, but doesn't mean you have to be friends with them or date them if you can't force the connection. So I get what you're saying. Okay. So now that I've gotten those questions, music. So I have a lot of questions for you about your musical background, because you and I mean, it's weird. Like I know that we both started music like somewhat later in life. And I know that you're similar to me in that, but I don't actually know much about your musical history.
So how old were you when you started playing piano? I don't even really know. Like, we're friends and I don't even think I've ever asked. I feel like a bad friend that I've never even asked you, like, how old exactly were you?
No, it's all right. Like, maybe I said something before, but I can't even remember. Like,
I just remember you saying you started later, but I never like really knew all the details. You know?
I started in high school. There was a class piano course in my high school, and I wanted to take it. I guess the reason was I had very little piano practice before I took that class in junior year in high school. I just remember, like, my dad used to play. He played a lot of piano, and he taught me some scales, and that was it. Like, that's all I learned, and some solfege with the scales, like do, re, mi, fa, so, and that was pretty much it. Like, and I remember he did try to get me lessons, but then I was just uninterested. Like, I just, you know, I think I was in middle school when he did that, and I just, at the time, I just wasn't interested. It wasn't until, like, high school when I took the piano course in junior year, where I just decided to, like, just a few days of the class, I was really picking it up really fast. Like, my teacher was like, "Hey, you got the hang of this." Like,
yeah.
So I'm like, I just kept practicing, and I started liking it a lot, and I was getting the hang of it faster than other kids in the class, because a lot of times they were like they were struggling with the scales, but I was getting the basics, like the scales down, like, and maybe it's because my dad taught me a little bit of it before, but then it's like it was something that I was picking up quicker, and just like that gave me the idea that maybe I should pursue this. And what really inspired me was, like, YouTube videos, because I love video game music.
Yeah.
And there's just, like, a lot of YouTubers who play a lot of covers from video game soundtracks. And I just like, I've always watched them, and I've always enjoyed them, and that's what inspired me to keep learning the piano as well, because I wanted to do that myself. And I learned Dire Dire Docks from Mario 64, I think, and also, like, the Song of Healing from Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, and I think those are the some of the first pieces that I've ever learned, along with the piece that I was given in, like, the piano course, which was a piece called Spinning Song.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah?
I have heard that one before. Is that, like, it's by a classical composer?
Yeah.
What's the composer?
I forgot.
I can't remember. I feel like a shitty classical pianist, but I know exactly what you're talking about, because I had a piano student who wanted to learn that. It's actually a pretty cool song.
Yeah,
is it? Yeah,
that's the one.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. That's so funny.
But actually, that was probably the first piece I ever learned hands together. Because when I first played the piano, it was like I was just doing one hand at a time and doing just the melody with my right hand, and that was it. Like, and then then I think that was the first piece that I started connecting both hands together.
And so before you realized that you had a natural ability for music, because it sounds like you realized you had this natural ability and then you decided to pursue that because it felt right to you. When you were younger, did you, like, I'm just kind of curious, before you became a musician, did you have any other vision that you thought you were going to do? Like, did you have any other careers that you thought you were going to be?
Just a few out there. I think I wasn't sure about it, but I was thinking about becoming a firefighter or a pilot. Or a pilot. Yeah.
Oh, damn. Wow, that's interesting. That's such like a big change to go from that to musician. But, you know, when you're younger, who the hell knows what you want to be? So it's interesting, you know. Why a firefighter?
I thought they looked cool, you know, and they were heroes. So
I was just gonna say, I know you're into, like, Marvel and stuff like that. So, right, aren't you into?
I'm more into, like, Nintendo characters.
So I was just gonna say, like, to be into that makes a lot of sense about the character thing, because you being into video games, it's like you had the inspiration of being a hero and a leader. But little did you know that video game inspiration would be more towards the musical aspect of things, which is really cool. I feel like video game music is is pretty awesome. Like there's a lot of like, you know, you and I took composition lessons. Like there's a lot of really interesting compositional things going on in video game music, and particularly Zelda and Super Mario. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
What's one of your favorite video game songs, would you say?
One of my favorites is from the Donkey Kong Country series. I like Aquatic Ambience, even though I can't play it yet.
But you want to play it someday?
Yeah, someday. I also like there's just so many, like
I love 8-bit sound in general. I think the 8-bit sound is really cool. And I also like Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know if you ever played Sonic the Hedgehog, but I love the music from like the Sega Genesis, like Sonic 2 and stuff like that. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you that like that's a good inspiration. If it's okay with you, can we perform one of your original songs?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break to set up. Give us 1 second. So we are back now. We are set up, and Etzel is going to be playing one of his original compositions, Playing in the Snow. So take it away, Etzel, whenever you're ready. was Edsel Flores playing the snow, his original composition. That was really awesome. I have a lot of questions about it. So let's get set up for a regular podcast, Phil, and we'll be right back. 1 second. Okay, first of all, cheers. That was freaking awesome. First, well, not really first, but second glass of wine on the podcast for the new year. So I have some questions for you about that. So my first question is, what inspired you to write this song? Did you have like an inspiration behind this song? Like what was your composition process, you know?
Well, it's ironic that the idea came during the summer. And it's like, I was just practicing one of my regular pieces, right? And just noodling. Like, I don't know where, just sometimes we lose distraction on what we're supposed to be practicing. Yeah. So I just like started noodling out of nowhere during one of my practice sessions. And then I came up with this idea like, mm-hmm. So I was like, wow, that sounds very like kind of wintry. It just gave me some winter vibes, like snow vibes with that idea. And then I'm like, I gotta record it. So I brought out my phone and just so I won't forget it.
Yeah.
That's what I do normally. Like normally when I like find ideas when I'm noodling, I just record it right away because then I'll forget. And then I'm like, I gotta like bring that up I got to start like I can make that into a real piece. Because like at the time I was still brand new to composition, so it was the summer before I joined before I took composition lessons with Dr. Halper. That's the first piece. Like, yeah, I came up with the idea during the summer, but then like when the fall time arrived, I brought that idea to Dr. Halper, and then that was the first piece we worked on.
It's funny, you and I have like a similar compositional process, I feel like, and I'm starting to wonder if like, well, I mean, I feel like everybody's process is different, but I know you and I are very similar in the fact that our compositional process starts with just a small fragmented idea, and we see like, okay, there's definitely potential in this idea, but then we have to sit down and like kind of pick it apart and let that idea grow. And you know, shout out to Dr. Halper. He's an awesome compositional teacher if he ever sees this, but I definitely think like I could agree with him that taking compositional lessons really taught me how to then take this idea and then grow it into something bigger and the process behind that. Definitely. So, but it is inspiring and encouraging to know that you don't have to be, in order to compose something, you don't have to be this like super genius that has the whole vision, you know, there for you from the beginning. Because there are composers like that they just have a dream and like they just wake up and they're like, oh, I have this whole vision of exactly what I want to say, and they just say it all at once. I envy people like that because I'm definitely not one of those people, but you and I are similar that way, that we just like have a little idea and then we have to kind of beat up that idea.
Right,
and
yeah.
It's funny, that's how my process is for comedy too, because I write stand-up comedy. I don't have like a whole bunch of jokes written out, but I have like a funny thought and I'm like, oh man, this thought is really funny, let me write it down, where's the punchline? And it takes me a long time to find it takes me a long time to break down what the punchline is in my funny thoughts, but eventually after, you know, sitting down and forcing myself to do it, I eventually get there. So that's really good to know. So here's a question I have for you. What classical composer would you say influences your playing style or your compositional style? Would you say that there's a composer that you can kind of see, like, even if it's subconscious, like even if you're not intentionally doing it, or composers, would you see there's any composers or music artists that after writing a composition, you kind of take a step back and say, hey, wait a second, I see some of Ravel here, or whatever, you know, is there any composer that kind of leaks through your style?
Yeah, definitely. Like sometimes when you see those diminished chords, you can think of like Bach, because they like the classical composer use all the chords that we like we're so used to hearing, so many major chords, and I think, and like then there's the scale passage. Mozart did a lot of scale passages, so I think just like I can hear some of that in the particular piece I just played. But like in other pieces, I also get, they don't all sound like Playing in the Snow, but sometimes I think it's more like neoclassical, because sometimes you find some other elements that are a little more modern. Like, because I would mix like, so like in other pieces that I have, you could hear some Debussy in them as well. So I
was gonna say, like the beginning, the A section of your piece sounds very classical. Like when you said Mozart, it's like super classical, and it's easy to kind of feel it. And then the middle section is like a surprise. Like I hear a lot of different influences in the middle section. It's kind of like you don't really see it coming, kind of thing. And I remember we were talking about that. I'm just like, damn, like this is one hell of a Playing in the Snow. Like it started out all right, like, you know, sledding and stuff, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's when the turbulence comes. Right.
So there's a story with this, like there's the A section, like the kids are playing in the snow and they're having a good time, and then there's a big like
they get murdered.
They get murdered. It's a blizzard in the middle, or a snowstorm, really bad snowstorm, and then they just have to go back inside. And, no, it's actually it's really good. I really I'm very impressed with like how it's developed, because I've seen it in the beginning phases and everything like that, and just the development of it, and even your the way you've played it, because I remember at one point you were like, oh, I wrote it but I have to learn how to play it. I'm very guilty of that myself. I write a bunch of stuff and I'm like, can't even play my own stuff because I use the software to write my own things, and I'm like, people are like, can you play it? I'm like, no, I can't. So very impressed like with everything you presented.
So my next question for you, and this is a question that both you and I, like, we have a similar experience with this as well. After graduating with a music degree, personally, I felt like a lot of people were asking me, you must feel so relaxed now. And I'm like, no, not at all. I feel like less relaxed because now there's something about being in school where there's like a structure and you know exactly what you need to do to succeed. So then when you then achieve that goal and you're kind of out on your own now, it's kind of like the world is a blank canvas and there's so many things you can choose to do now. It's like, okay, I have a music degree. What am I going to do with that? Am I going to compose? Am I going to, just pursue education? Am I going to do a little bit of both? And to me, it can be overwhelming sometimes. So like, I'm still in the process of like figuring out my path and what I want to do with my future. So I'm just kind of curious, like, how is that process going for you? Are you still kind of soul searching for what you now want to do with your life? Or do you have a clearer vision of what you want to do post graduation? I'm kind of curious about that.
I'm just going to continue working on my craft. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. Like, just because I graduated from music school doesn't mean I stopped practicing. Doesn't mean that I stopped doing, learning new things about music. So I definitely want to continue that. That's like a lifelong journey right there. So,
yeah.
And I feel like Kean University, being there for 4 years, has just like, it was a great foundation for me. So
that's good that you think of it that way, because I know a lot of people like, and I'm not shit talking anybody, but it's just like my observation. I know some colleagues who they graduated with music and then they kind of were like, well, I did it. Now time to get married and have kids and, put the rest away. And then, to each his own. If that's the path you want to lead, fine. But I think the true artists are, and the true, the people who really love what they do, it's not like, okay, you have the degree, you have the piece of paper and it's over. I think it's a lifelong journey of, learning. And that's, I think, one of the amazing things about music and about piano and about composition and everything like that. It's like, I don't know, I'm a very like, OCD type of person, and I feel like I constantly like need to be figuring things out. So that's what I love about the journey of music, is that it never ends. You know what I mean? It's a never ending journey. No matter how good you are, there's always going to be something that you could be doing to improve yourself, which I like that. I don't want to just like be finished. You know what I mean? I kind of like that's
searching. The fun of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you and I went through an experience, not just you and I, but like the whole our school community went through this. So we had like a scare with our college where we almost, I don't want to get into like the politics of it, but just in a nutshell, we almost lost the music department. It was almost gone, but it was then saved again. Yeah. So my question for you is, why do you think, and I'm not inferring anything by asking this question. I just like, I was kind of asking a lot of my own questions during this experience, but my question for you is, why do you think college is important in general? Like, do you think college is important? And my follow-up question for that is, if you think it's important, why is music important as part of a college curriculum? So I guess the first question would be, why is college important? Like, what's the point? What's
like
the purpose?
In general? Like,
yeah, like after graduating college, do you see the value in it? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I don't think it's for everyone. Mm-hmm. People could still be great without it. Another thing is like, but it's not bad to have. I think it can be very beneficial. Like if you actually apply what you learn instead of just going there just because your parents tell you to go there. Yeah. So just take those lessons, like take the very important ones and just remember them for life. I think you could always use it for life, like the most important lessons you learn and the friends and the connections you make. I think that's all important right there.
Yeah. I had like, the reason I'm asking this is because I had a lot of like up and down feelings about college when I went through it and graduating and everything like that. Ultimately, my short answer is that college is a good thing. But there were definitely some things along the way that I was frustrated with. One of my frustrations was, I guess sometimes college is like a business, and sometimes you have to take all these classes that really don't suit your future, like what you're doing. So for example,
it has its downfall.
So like, for example, when I was a foreign language, I was a Spanish major. And then when I was graduating, they wouldn't let me, this is crazy. They wouldn't let me graduate unless I fulfilled my foreign language requirement. And I'm like, my major is a foreign language. Like, that's my whole thing. And they're like, yeah, but everybody has to take a foreign language. And since Spanish is the major, it's technically not foreign to you. And I'm like, well, it is. And so I remember like, they were like, you can either take a different language like Mandarin or Russian or Italian. And I ended up taking Italian, which actually I really enjoyed. So I ended up taking Italian. They're like, you can either take a different foreign language or you can just take like swimming or something. And so just like stuff like that where I'm like, okay, like I feel dumbfounded. And then the other element of it that like frustration with college is that, why is it so expensive? You know what I mean? Like that was like, the one thing. It's like, you know, you have this amazing experience, but then, I mean, I don't know if you took out student loans. That could have been my own stupidity for taking out student loans, but you know, you get this degree and then it's like, okay, well, here's $100,000. Now you have to pay back. Like, so, right. Those were some of my frustrations with college, but ultimately I think the education, and the structure of having this community of professors and everything. I guess what I'm saying is if I could isolate just the music department and not all the other crap that I had to go through, if I could just isolate this and then somehow make that more affordable for me, it was an amazing experience because I had some really great relationships with like my teachers, you know, Dr. Helper, Dr. Marchena, you know, some relationships that I don't think I could have just run into like on the streets, you know?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just curious your feelings on that.
Yeah, it does have its frustrations. I hated taking. I didn't want to take a science course of a lab. That I thought that was pointless for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like, why are you making me take this? I'm a music major.
Yeah.
It's not like you're making science majors take a music course. Like you're not forcing them to take theory or something.
My follow-up question to that was, why is it? Since we almost lost our music department, and we had to kind of prove, like we had to go through our way to prove why music is important. If you had to like, I'm just putting this out there so people understand like the importance of music in a college curriculum. What would you say is like the importance of music or the arts in a college?
Well, yeah, I feel it's a great, I mean, a lot of people say it's a great outlet and I agree with that. I just feel like art is very important and without it, it can be kind of depressing because it's like, I feel art inspires a lot of people. And I think that's very important and a good reason to keep music in the colleges.
The arts are a part of humanity that are so important, and to deny it, but to then put attention on very specific things that they have in college, like, oh, women's gender studies. And I'm not saying that none of that is important, but I just find it funny how there's like these very niche specific college degrees that, you know, you would put attention or focus to, but then completely deny the importance and the necessity of arts in our society. You know what I mean?
Yeah, music is very, like art in general, music is part of art, and all of that is important for just a lot of people. And a lot of people, especially people who have very difficult degrees, like not just music majors need them, but like, I guess like STEM majors, some STEM majors who struggle, or like who are like stressing out a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes like we got not just STEM majors, but anyone who's taken a hard major outside of music can join choir, and they'll feel like it's a great place to just relieve some stress, like because a lot of people like music, and not just choir, but they can join so many different ensembles that our music program has that is available to the whole school, not just music majors. And I think anyone who is interested, it's like that's just like one of the best things that any college, that one of the best options that any college could have is to offer music ensembles or activities that involve art.
I also think that, you know, like you mentioned the choir and everything, I think that music has the ability to connect people together in a way that no other thing can. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, I don't want to say no other thing because there are other things that can, but I mean, I feel like music has a unique way. They say that music is the universal language. Yeah. Like, for example, you know, sometimes the vocal majors, they'll be doing performances in German, like they'll be doing like German vocal performances. I don't know what the hell they're saying, but I do know what they're saying, like just by the sentiment of how they're performing and their stage presence and the music and everything like that. I think, even though I don't understand the language of the words, I don't understand German, I get it. Like I feel something mutual, when performed, when the student or the performer is putting everything into the performance, like I get what you're saying. Even if I don't understand your words, I feel you. You know what I mean? That's why I think like music is so powerful, because it has a way to connect people,
right.
In a way that is very unique to music.
I
you know
agree,
what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
That's a good point right there. Like it connects people of all, of any race, of any backgrounds. It's like if a lot of people have that in common, is music. Like doesn't matter if we don't speak the same language. We could, like a Mozart sonata sounds great to anyone. Like that's a good example.
Here's an interesting thought though. Now I'm going to kind of contradict myself. So in these like little, like I teach piano lessons to kids, and in these little lesson books, they have a song called Sakura. It's like do you ever hear that one? Sakura? It's like, I would play it for you right now, but, it's like, da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. So if you look at the lyrics of the song, it's called Cherry Blossom, and it's about flowers blossoming. But to all my students, they say it sounds like a funeral march or something. So it's kind of funny how we're saying that music is the universal language, but at the same time, I'm wondering if different cultures do perceive different sounds differently, if that makes any sense. Because it's interesting how. And I mean, unless it's a cultural thing, unless I have to look into it more, maybe in the Japanese culture, like, flowers are sad. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand the cultural elements. You know what I mean? So
I know what you mean.
Could be something like that, but I just, music is universal, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure that, different cultures probably perceive different sounds differently, which is like a whole different subject. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Just like, I feel like in some cultures, like it's like there's a difference between like there's a strong beats can be in the second and third, but like I think in the classical culture, the Western culture, it's like on 1 and 3, so people like could perceive it differently and different styles, and like world culture music is sometimes different. Yeah, like it's a different sound than like classical Mozart or something, and it's so I guess what you're trying to say that like they could perceive it differently, like even though it's universal, even though it's a universal language, there's like a preference to what they prefer to listen to if it's part of their culture, like of what they're used to listen to, what they're used to listening to. So
now we're going to get into another topic altogether, because that is unrelated to music. So I wanted to talk to this, on my podcast, because you and I were texting before, and you texted me an Eckhart Tolle video, which I found very eye-opening. And I definitely wanted to quickly touch on this before we end the podcast. So this was an amazing eye-opening video that you showed me. And I kind of just wanted to share that with, my listeners and my subscribers. So one thing that's been on my mind lately is that I feel like there's a lot of, because there's so many bloggers and so many YouTubers and so many different people out there spreading information, myself included, I'm also out there doing the same thing. But because there's so many people out there, spreading information, I feel like a lot of information gets really dumbed down now, and people kind of parakeet each other without really thinking about what they're saying. And one of the things that has been driving me crazy lately is like, this notion that everything negative is toxic, like negativity is toxic and good vibes only, and like that type of thing. And that type of stuff always drove me crazy, because it's like, it's important to think positively, but at the same time to not deny the existence of negativity. So like where I'm going with this is that you shared to me a really interesting video that was very insightful that Eckhart Tolle made. And it was about pain and suffering, and the longing, like that desire and that longing, that void, emotional void that everybody's trying to fill to be in love. So I wanted to talk about it with you, and I wanted you to kind of, reiterate to me like what he's saying, because I know you're a big Eckhart Tolle fan. But basically what Eckhart Tolle is saying to his listeners is that we all have this, not all, but we can't, like most humans have this like emptiness and this void they're trying to fill. And often they think that finding a romantic partner will then fill this void. So I'm curious, like, can you explain to me more what Eckhart Tolle is trying to say? Like, what is this void? And just explain it to us, because I think it was a really good video.
From my understanding, I think the void that he's talking about is that emptiness that we all are always looking ahead, and it's like we're not present in the moment, and it's that void that a lot of people are trying to avoid, like loneliness. It's that longing that people feel, and they feel like they need someone in their lives to feel complete and whole and happy, but then they're expecting someone else to provide that completeness to them.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like you can already feel complete. So in the moment, it's just that if you're always looking for someone to fulfill that void, then you're always gonna feel like something's missing. Because how would you be if one day if you're with someone and they're not fulfilling your expectations one day, you're gonna feel like something's missing again. So then you just blame it on someone else. But I think what Eckhart Tolle is trying to say is that we shouldn't expect anyone to fulfill that void. We can fulfill that void simply by accepting and giving attention to our loneliness and not seeing it so much as a bad thing. Like, it's okay to be alone, It's like he talked about that loneliness, if you give it the attention that it needs, it turns into solitude, which is like not a bad thing. Like, I think it just comes to the mindset that we all feel like we need someone, and that loneliness, it's a bad thing. But I think like we can find a deeper connection to the here and now, and that when we're alone, we can find peace, and we don't really need someone to fulfill that void.
Yeah, I like that he like it really opened my eyes, like what he was saying, because I like that he said that don't ignore the feeling or give it a bad name or give it a bad label. So at first he kind of validates people, like, hey, this loneliness that people feel is a normal part of it's a normal part of the human experience. So feel the loneliness and then watch what that loneliness becomes. And then he makes a comment that this loneliness that is so common to human existence it's not really, you feel incomplete because the thing you're searching for isn't love. It's not success. It's not money. We try to find ways to fulfill this void with love, sex, money, drugs, whatever. We all have our ways of filling this void. But what he's saying is this thing that we're searching for is our connection to God and to spirituality. So I find that very interesting. And what he's trying to say is if you just sit with that loneliness and feel it as opposed to trying to find a quick solution to it, you will then find your way to God. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that was like kind of blew my mind when he said that to me. And I felt like I heard it at the right time, but I needed to hear it. So I really appreciate you sending me that video. Yeah. Are there any other inspiring quotes by Eckhart Tolle or things that he said to you that have really helped you?
I don't really remember any of the quotes, but I just know that he, like, the way he says things, it just reminds me and helps me stay in the present moment. It helps me stay in the present moment because he emphasizes observing the here and now and finding peace in it, like without the mental noise, because the mental noise is where the trouble starts. That's what really like that's where the ego is, and which is a false sense of self. A lot of times our egos is our biggest enemy in life. So that's what he's taught me, and I learned a lot from reading his book, The Power of Now. Sorry if I can't remember any specific quotes.
No, it's okay. I don't like, I'm exactly the same way. I have like a bunch of Bruce Lee quotes that I love, but if you asked me to recite them on the spot, I would totally mess them up. So I hear you on that one.
I also like Bruce Lee. He's awesome.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Like, one thing about Eckhart Tolle, because I have read The Power of Now. I read it in Spanish. El poder de ahora. And one thing he emphasizes is, like you said, being present in the moment. And he doesn't say you can't stop these negative thoughts, but he says you can watch them.
Yeah, you can.
He's like, you can't stop them, but just watch them walk by. Like you're sitting like he talks about, like sitting at a park bench,
right? And
just like let them go by. Don't judge them. Just like, oh, there they are. Let the thoughts.
I think that's very helpful.
Yeah,
it's very helpful. It's because a lot, like before I read the book, I think the book is life changing. By the way, I think people should read it if it doesn't resonate with you. I don't think it does to everyone, but it helped me a lot. And if you want, you could always, there's a free audio book on YouTube. You could just search it up. And
he has the whole Power of Now on YouTube for free.
Yeah, so it's audiobook.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I don't know what happened to my Spanish version, but I should reread that. So maybe I should listen to that. That would be a good idea, because I am the worst at being in the moment. I get a lot of anxiety. I worry a lot about the future. My ego, I definitely, I don't want to say I have a big ego. Like I'm mean. I don't mean it like that, but I just mean, the ego can do many things. Right. The ego can be mean to other people, but you can also be mean to yourself. I think my ego is mean to me more than it is mean to other people. So
I feel the same way. Like sometimes, like I feel that's what the book helped me is, like, it taught me a lot on forgiving myself and not judging myself for any mistake that I think I made.
Yeah. I
think that's important, and it also, like, it also taught me that we can live in the moment, and that our life situation isn't our life.
Yeah.
So there's an inner peace in the stillness, and whenever we're present, we feel that stillness, and like right now. So there's a stillness right now. So.
Well, kind of. There's actually a really loud pipe, but I know what you mean. Like, there's like, I live in an apartment, and when my neighbors take a shower, like, there's this really loud sound in the corner of my room. But I know, I'm just kidding. I know what he means. Like, even within the chatter, there is a stillness. Even within the chatter, within the pipes, within the mental chaos, there is a stillness.
Yeah.
We are going to finish the podcast, and Etzel is going to be performing another one of his original songs. So I'm very excited about this. What's the song called?
This one's called Falling Leaves. So
Falling Leaves.
Yeah, this one takes place in the fall. Like, the other one was in the winter, but this is takes place in the fall.
Did you write it in the summer?
No, actually, this was the second piece I worked with Dr. Helper.
Okay, so we're going to take a break to set up, and we'll be right back. Okay, and we are back. So Etzel's here, and he's going to be performing another one of his originals to end the podcast. This is called Falling Leaves. So take it away, Etzel, whenever you're ready. That is Falling Leaves by Edsel Flores, everybody. That was freaking awesome. It was like a very different vibe, but a similar setup in the sense that the A section was like very like chill and relaxing, and then I was like really surprised by a lot of the ways it developed in the B section. There was a couple chords in there that like gave me musician stank face, which we all know if you make stank face as a musician, it's like the best compliment to like look at when you make that face, like you look at the person like you're disgusted. That is the best compliment that you can give a musician. So that's actually it for today. We only have one microphone, so I'm going to hand the microphone to Etzel if he has anything to say, because I only have a audio interface with 2 inputs, because you know we got to fix things around here. But Etzel, do you have anything to say before we leave?
All right, it was good being here. This is my first time ever doing a podcast, so yep. Hopefully you enjoyed my performances, and subscribe.
Thank you so much. That's Etzel, and this is the Pranzata podcast. If you're before I leave, remember, if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe, like, comment below on anything we talked about or any of the performances. If you liked anything, didn't like anything. I interview musicians, I interview comedians, I interview business owners, artists of all kind, and I do some of my own music covers and originals coming soon as well. So thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Bye.